on your system. If you're using Linux and you're using Debian, you need to do apt. So you need to do sudo apt install vim. I think it's vim full. And you'll need to type in your password to get it. And the reason for that is because the number one resource I'm going to tell you about right now is not there. So again, I hope you have your little book that you have open, because all of these commands are not coming in any particular order, so you can remember them. So sudo space, you don't have to understand what's going on, apt space install space vim. And tomorrow we're going to talk about installs and configuration and everything. So that's the first one you want to do. So apt-get was the old command, yes. And the next command you want to do is Vim. I believe it's Vim-Tutor. Let's try it. It might be actually Vim Tutor by itself. I can't remember. Vim is already at the latest. I think it might be actually Vim-Tutor. It used to be included. No, it is. Okay, so it turns out Vim Tutor is now included with Vim. So I don't think you need to worry about that. But the reason you need to do sudo apt install Vim is one reason. The full version of Vim does not come by default on Debian systems, and many Linux systems are Debian. We won't get into the weeds on that, but just know that you need to install Vim to get the full version, and the full version does come with Vim Tutor. Okay, it comes. Yeah, if you don't have Vim Tutor, it should come with Vim. And so don't do it right now, but just know that this is one of the number one resource I recommend is Vim Tutor in the terminal. And this will take you, this is one of the reasons, by the way, that we're doing this in Linux. I have a lot of problems with this particular tutorial. It turns out it was made by a bunch of college kids in Colorado and has become like the international standard for like learning Vim. It has a number of symptoms of that situation. So it doesn't do capital C or capital D. Still, this is hands down my overwhelming first recommendation for how to learn Vim. Why? Because you are using Vim to do the tutorial. You see me using H, J, K, and L, right? And we're going to talk about lots of other resources you can use to learn Vim, but every single other resource to learn Vim does not use Vim. I probably distorted my voice a little bit there. I didn't mean it to. But the best way for you to learn a tool is to use the tool. Don't use some emulated version of the tool. Use the tool. Okay? My keys don't show. Okay, well, I'll show my keys. Stream key. So here we go. Oh, no, what is it? What is it? I forgot what it is. String key? Keys. Screen key. Duh. All right, here we go. So we're going to do the Vim Tutor again. Vim Tutor. So down arrow, or J, sorry. L. Oops, there's nothing there to go on. And then J to go down. And we keep going down here. And it's like I'm just going down. I'm just pushing H, J, K, and L, or H, J, K, and L right now. There are 7 lessons divided into different parts, and it starts out by showing you how to type. Move the cursor around until you feel comfortable. And then it tells you what to do to edit some things. There's really no automated testing. You are your own tester. So you're going through it and you're doing it. So it's going to tell you some things that I did not tell you. So for example, it tells you to quit using :Q exclamation point. Which exits without saving. It teaches you how to use escape instead of Control Left bracket, which you now know does the same thing. It does not teach ZZ at all. It has many flaws, but it's the best place to start. And then I can layer on some of the fixes for this after this. The tutorial file is read only. Yep, but it's actually not. But because it makes a copy of it that you can edit. But then it says, but you haven't got to that part yet. Press X to delete a character. It's going to take you through the whole thing. So I can tell you from experience that I've sent like over 100 people through the Vim Tutor, and every one of them has come out a relatively powerful Vim user at the end. I have to supplement it and add a few things to their skills so that they don't go away thinking this is all there is to it. Most notably the magic wands, which I'll talk about in a second. But this is the best way to get through Vim. I am not going to spend any time talking about why you should use Vim versus Emacs, why you should learn Vim versus NeoVim. I strongly disagree with the use of NeoVim. There's no reason to use it at all. There's no compelling reason to use it at all. No one has made a compelling argument to use it. Vim comes on the system by default, so why muddy the waters? NVI is probably the only thing for some of you that I might recommend who want to learn the true VI experience. It's called NVI, but those are all extra things you want to do after you use just Vim Tutor. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save this. That was an escape shift ZZ, or and so now that's gone. I'm going to kill my screen key command so that it doesn't get in the way as we move toward configuring our system to save what we just made. All right, so for the rest of the time here, 45 minutes, all we're going to do is set up GitLab to save our work. That is all. That is the goal. The goal is so that this work that we just did will be saved and backed up on GitLab in a happy way that we can save anytime and look at. That's the entire goal. Right now, it's very dangerous, right? If I delete this file on accident, and since you're a beginner, it's very likely you might do that mistake, then what do, right? Well, you don't have a backup. So the old school days of like having a USB stick or all the other many ways of backing something up are kind of more than you need these days. Now you can just set up a Git repo, which we covered a lot yesterday. And we're going to go ahead and because we're using GitLab, what I'm about to do in this next 45 minutes is not possible with GitHub in the way that I'm going to do it. So if you're going to try to do this with GitHub, forget it. Okay, this only works with GitLab. And we won't, the setting up of keys and stuff is the same, but the saving of our repo using GitLab is going to be a very specific GitLab only thing. And we'll get to that. Okay, so what is the first step? Again, if you guys want to debate VI versus Vim, you've got what I recommend. Use Vim. Okay. If you want to have a big debate about all the different editors and stuff that in the Discord, I welcome you to do that. That's fun. Make your own decisions, do your own research. But that's my recommendation, and it's just the fastest to get going with that. All right. I forgot to go through the resources. I'm going to just list them really quickly. So after you finish the Vim Tutor, all right, there's a website called OpenVim, which is really good. That's the next one I recommend. There's actually another website called Vim Genius. The guy is really great. It's more of a flashcardy way of going through it to practice your commands. Neither of these use actual Vim. They both try to emulate it. And so right here you have Learn Progressively, which is really cool, but it also still does not teach you the magic wands. I'm not going to teach you the magic wands right here. I just want you to study them. And I do have a link to them right here. It says, so after you finish Vim Tutor, your next thing to do is to learn the magic wands. They are not covered anywhere in any tutorial, and they are the most powerful, most important part of Vim you will ever learn. And yet nobody covers it, and it really triggers me. Make absolutely sure that you learn the magic wands before you can clear your beginner. In fact, I call them the magic wands. I made that word up because I want it to start to enter our mental consciousness in the Vim world, because it needs to be a mainstream thing that's taught from the beginning. Here's what magic wands are. Okay, so magic wands are the mnemonic device for the exclamation point, and it basically allows you to run shell commands from within VI. People were asking me why VI over Nano. Because of this. This cannot be done from Nano, period, end of debate, and it's one of the most powerful parts of VI. It can also be done from Emacs, but Emacs it's much more difficult to do this kind of thing. And the reason we're not using Emacs in a nutshell is that Emacs isn't installed by default on every computer. VI is. Okay, so you can learn Emacs fine later if you want to do that, if you're going to be just on one computer. But if you want to be successful on multiple computers, you go with VI every time, end of debate. So that's what I'm talking about there. Make sure you understand that stuff. All right, so now let's go back down to, let's retool here and go with GitLab and GitHub. You should know about how we've set all those things up. So here we go. We're gonna use a command called SSH keygen, and so I'm going to send you to a web page, and I'm going to do these commands, but I want you to follow this page. I wrote this page up specifically to back you up on this. It is, it's a little rough for a beginner to do this, but what we are doing, and I'm going to give you a 1-minute summary on public key cryptography, because you should be teaching yourself and doing the research on this. Public key cryptography is the idea of creating a secret key and a public key. So you can think of it like if you were in a club and you made you made one ring to rule them all, and you gave all your friends a public key that goes with that key, and you would then send secret messages to them that only they could read. Or you could send public messages that anybody could read that only they can prove came from you. That's what public key cryptography is. Anybody with the public key, by the way, can also create messages that only you can read, or they can create not even other people with public keys can read their messages. So let's say one person from your club sends you a message and they make it encrypted. Only you can read the message because it's been encrypted with the public key, and only the private key holder can read it. If the same way with signing, if they send a public message that anybody can read, only the person with the private key can prove that it was generated by someone with the public key. But more importantly, is the messages that are created by the person with the private key. So I can write a very simple message, hello world or something, and I can use my magic private key to sign it, and I can send it to anybody, and anybody can be absolutely sure that that message came from me without any question. And so this concept of public key cryptography is the essence of passwordless sign-in. And at this point, people who know about public key cryptography love to chime in and say, oh, well, what about the passphrase to protect your private key? I'm talking about basic usage of public key cryptography. Okay, so please don't muddy the waters yet with that. Just know that it is possible to make your private key also have a password. So if someone stole your private key from you in this pretend scenario, they couldn't even use it unless they knew the password to use your private key. So you can set a password on your private key, but we are not going to do that today because the private key we're making has very low security risk. It's designed to prove that I am me and make a connection to Gitlab without requiring me to type something in every time. And the way that we go about doing this is we give a copy of our public key after we make the key pair. We give a copy of that public key to Gitlab and store it. And then anytime I want to make a connection to Gitlab, behind the scenes, there's a quick little message that's sent to Gitlab that proves that you are you. And it's like, oh, fine. Yeah, here's your stuff. And then it gives you all your stuff and you can download your stuff without typing a password in. If you're really, really interested in, like spy level security of your GitLab repo, private repos, then yeah, you can even put a password on your private key so that anytime you do anything with GitLab, you have to type in that password. That's generally considered best practice in the industry, but for our purposes here, that's overkill. And you can have another private key pair. You can make as many as you want. You can make another super secure private key pair for when you want to do things that are more secure. So this public key cryptography that we're going to use does cover that. Okay. Yes, GitLab has a fantastic tutorial on that. But if you want, I also have one here. So rwx.gg/ssh-keygen, and that will take you through the exact steps that we're going to do right now. I'm going to go here so you can follow. So we're going to use this particular method of using SSH keygen. It's not what you'll find on the internet. There's a lot of stuff on the internet that says just use SSH keygen. We are upgrading it to use the safest and most efficient algorithm for encryption that exists, which is elliptical curve. Actually, SSH upgraded to elliptical curve. So these days, the elliptical curve algorithm, which we're not going to get into, is the hardest to break into. It's the most frequently invented. It's fast. It's quantum resistant, meaning it can be expected to be harder to crack even when quantum computers become common. And here are the steps to make your first key. So if you want to follow along. So the first command is, I'm not even going to type them. I'm just going to let you do it. So the first command is SSH keygen. And by the way, this is not a space. It is not uncommon for commands themselves to have dashes in them in Unix. Some people hate that that's a thing. It just is. Okay, so in this case, very commonly when I teach this, people will put a space right here. There's no space. Okay, SSH-keygen space -t, which stands for what type of one key do you want, and then ED25519. And you don't need to memorize that. You can look it up later. But that's it, 825919. And then you should see something like this: generated public key pair, enter file in which to save the key. Now, at this point, we're going to be entering a bunch of blanks. We're not going to enter any information. If you wanted to change where your key was being stored, you could do that. Bad idea. Just use the default, which is .ssh. This is a hidden directory. That's what the dot's about, inside of your home directory. Okay, so that's where we're going to save it by default. We press enter. We press the return enter key to move on. Ask you for your passphrase. Here's the point where you can just enter nothing to type a passphrase, or you can put a passphrase in if you want to type it every single time you use Git. So just make that decision. It does not matter what directory you're in. No, you can execute the SSH keygen command from anywhere on the system, if that's okay. So press enter the passphrase. It will actually find it and it'll put it in the right place for you. That's a good question. So enter the same passphrase again, and then we're going to go down some more, and you'll get a bunch of this stuff out, and it'll print the key fingerprints. You don't need to remember any of this stuff. It'll give you a nice, pretty random art image that represents your key. I think that's just a way to visually identify that you've made a new key. And then, congrats, you now have a public-private key pair. It's not really that hard. Well, where is the thing, right? So now we have to go get it. So the next step is to CD. So now we're going to our home directory, CD tilde if you insist. But if you CD, it should take you home. And then you can use cat. Cat is a new command for you, right? So cat, add that to your list of commands. I'm adding it to my list here so I can cover which order we're going through them in. What does cat do? Cat just concatenates or spits out the content of the file. So it just dumps it out. And then, strictly speaking, it sends it to the standard output. If you want to be fancy and you have xclip installed and you know what this is about, you can actually load the content of the key into your clip buffer, so you can just paste it, right? If you want to be fancy. This is a tool called xclip, which does copying and pasting without using your mouse at all. And so never ever give out your private key. Yeah, there's actually a huge thing down here that says here. Here it says right here, be really careful not to display your private key to anyone. No one needs it but you. Make sure you're dealing with .pub. Okay. It's not uncommon for people to cat their private keys to a stream, or to show people or to send them the wrong key. No, you want it. There's two keys in there. The one that you want is .pub. Okay. So be really, really, really careful that you don't give your private key away. If somebody has your private key, they own everything you use with that key. Literally own it. And you don't want somebody to go in there and destroy everything in your private repo and wake up one day with no backup. Okay. Now, this is why you should have a copy of your repos locally at all times. Okay. So .pub means public. That means there's no problem. Here is a public key that I made recently. Okay. Nope, not that. So, you guys see here that this public key, this number here is the key. It's using, I believe this is base 64 encoding, which is, the key is binary. And so this is the key represented in an encoding called hex. I think this has been hex. No, this isn't been hex. This is base 64. So it's a base 64 encoding. You'll learn all about that if you do Pico CTF, by the way. You'll learn what encoding is. And it's not random. No, it's using an algorithm, but the algorithm is resistant to guessing. So it's essentially random, but yeah. So, oh, we're talking about this number here? No, this number here. Good. Thank you for bringing that up. This identifier here, if you did it wrong, it'll be RSA. And this is the name of the algorithm that was used to generate your key. Okay, so in this case, we have ED25519 because we did -T, ED25509, that's why that's there, and that's it over here. Be very careful. We're about to copy and paste your key because the next step is to save this key on GitLab. Now, the key is right here, and the most common error people have here is they do this. They double-click on the middle of the key, and they paste that, and it's wrong. Why is it wrong? Because it missed the whole line. If you insist on clicking, triple click. 1, 2, 3. You get the whole line. That's fine. If you want to get the whole line, dun. Triple click. or you can, do this thing. All right. So triple click, get the whole line. You need this part, and you need this stuff at the end. Yeah. And then you can now share this public key with services like GitLab, blah, 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 or PicoCTF. You don't need to worry about the passphrase on your secret key. Okay, so next step. Now that you have your key, you can go add this key to GitLab. Okay, and the way you do that is you go log into GitLab. Okay, it's base64, yeah. We're going to log into GitLab. Okay, so I'm on my GitLab here. Pay attention. Okay, we're going to click here, and we're going to say, I want the settings for me. And there's nothing that I'm going to dox here about myself. This is just access tokens would be doxing, but I'm not going to show that. I'm looking for my keys. So over here on the right, you're looking for SSH keys, not GPG keys, which was another day. SSH keys, see right here? Okay. So SSH keys. And with the SSH keys, this is another reason I really love GitLab. Take a moment to recognize how different this is from GitHub. It is very, very well worded. It tells you what to do. It says paste your public SSH key, which will usually be here. It even tells you where to put it and what to do about it. And I love that they've done that. That's just an extra detail that I really love about GitLab. So then we come back here and then you paste it, and you'll see if you scroll down, you'll see here it actually put this stuff in here automatically, and it has an add key right here. Now I'm not going to add a key because just not going to right now. If you click on add a key, and then that will add your key to your system. All right, so once you've done that, I'm going to proceed quickly to the next thing. Pause if you need to. Expiration, you don't need it. You don't need any expiration. You don't need that. It's more likely that you're going to go add an expiration of your own later. Yeah. So okay. Now, in order to check it, so we're done with GitLab. Go ahead and save that. Now we're going to check and see if it works. And I call this a GitLab ping or a GitHub ping. We're going to try to connect with SSH, which is a command to add to your list. We're not going to go deeply into what SSH is right now. We're just going to use it to test GitLab and make sure our key works. Okay, and so here we go, SSH, and then we do we're going to do SSH, and then we're going to do git at gitlab.com. That's it. And you'll see if it worked correctly, it'll tell you, it'll welcome you, and it'll say get lost. Okay. And what that means is that you've been authenticated properly. That means that you are now ready to work with GitLab from the command line. And that's all you needed to know. A lot of people who I've talked to who know about GitLab don't know about this simple little test. It's very, very useful way to see if everything is working as it should. It does not test the next thing we're going to do, however. And again, I'm going fast because I know you can pause. Okay. If the authenticity cannot be established, say yes to that. Okay. That's prevent man in the middle of attacks. And we're not in a position to talk about what that means, other than to say if you're reasonably confident that the GitLab you're connecting to is the actual GitLab, then type yes to that. If you think you're in a hostile environment and someone's attacking you, you maybe not want to type yes to that. As long as the IP looks good to you and you can validate it, you can type yes. That's actually one of the flaws. But press enter to authenticate or type yes. Okay. You should not be. Yeah, so it's not giving me that because I already did mine. So once you get this set up, then the next step is for you to configure the Git application on your computer. So it's possible at this point that you're actually not going to have Git installed. It's a very rare thing, but just to be sure, sudo apt install git. All right. So again, I'm talking about Debian-based instros. If it just hangs, that means you're not able to talk to GitLab. So the next command, let me give you another command here. It's called ping. So ping gitlab.com. All right. If you This just checks your connection to see if you can connect. Yeah, a lot of them have Git pre-installed. Most should. But if you need to check whether you even have a connection to GitLab, you can type ping. Okay, ping will check whether that exists. And if you don't have that working, something's wrong with your network. It's either wrong with your system or your NAT configuration, or something's wrong on your home Wi-Fi. If that's a problem, then I can't help you fix. But that's how you can know if it doesn't work. All right. So, or DNS. Yep. Yeah, it could be DNS. But there's lots of possibilities there. Go to the Discord and get help there if you can't do that. But sshgit@gitlab.com will ultimately, after you say yes, we'll show you this, and you should see the welcome message. If you don't see that and it says authentication failed, then that means that your key didn't work. That means that you didn't put all of your key in there, that you just put the middle part of it and not all three parts of it. It means that you maybe had something extra that wasn't supposed to be there. If you used a passphrase, it might be waiting around for you to type the passphrase in. There's lots of reasons for that, but this is what it's supposed to look like. With a big warning, probably don't answer yes. Frank makes a good point there. If SSH ever screams at you later because the IP seems to have changed and it is another computer, you need to instantly come to our Discord and notify us to help you, because that means you were actually successfully attacked by a man-in-the-middle attack. I have never had anybody have that happen to them. However, I've done it to myself. I've actually used the same IP on my home network and changed it out and made another computer with the same exact IP, and all of a sudden my SSH stopped working to that computer because it thought that I was being attacked by a man in the middle. In other words, somebody had taken my computer and pretended to be another computer. So that is the only time I have ever actually incurred that. It's a very, very rare thing. I have never experienced that in the wild at all. It was a little scary, by the way, because I didn't know what happened there. Let's see if you want. I don't know what to tell you about that. Okay, so the next thing, so the last step for configuring Git, we're doing pretty well on time, but we're kind of close, is you need to set your username and your password for your Git config. So assuming you have Git installed, which you should have, and if you don't have it installed, sudo, what do we do? apt install Git, right? So you got Git. If you want to check whether you have Git or not, type which Git, and that'll tell you with a Git. You can type git-version if you want to. Which is another command I haven't taught you yet, so let's put that there. Which just shows you which command is on the system. And if it says nothing, then you know it's not there. It looks like I think Git is -- version, and we'll come back to that. So we're 2.7.1. I suppose that's fine, but we're going to set the username and the email. So I'm going to clear my screen again, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. So it will actually prompt you to do this if you try to do a git save later, but rather than have you get confused later, we're going to proactively make this change now and do that. So we're going to do git space config, okay, and then I think it's -- global. Is it -- global? I have mine set up. Yep, global -- global, and then user .name, and then space, and then you want to put the name of your GitLab account. Okay, so in my case, rwxrob. All right. So I'm going to cancel mine, but you can. That's the command you're doing. Yeah, they shouldn't be on a Debian fork. If they're on a Debian fork, they need to know what to do, because I'm not going to cover it. So git config -- global. I mean, if they're on an Arch thing. So then the git config global, and then user.email, and then you enter the email address that you used for GitLab. Okay. If you have done that, I'm going to cancel mine because they're trying to say things that I can't see. That's why they're using the bang. Okay, so here we have git config. Here, by using git config -l username and username. Yep, that's a good option. Let's show them that -l. That will show you everything. Also, you can, the file that it creates, by the way, is in .git config. Okay, so the file is in git config, and you can look inside of that file if you want to and see what it saves about you. Okay, once you have done all of that, you are ready to go, and now you can save your new script that you wrote. Okay, and for the last 15 minutes, we're going to be doing. It's going to be really easy for you to get frustrated with the commands we're about to do, and I want to remind you that these commands are available in GitLab when you create a new account. Okay, so let's pretend you don't know about these commands at all, and the way you would know them is this. We're gonna do them, and you can write them in your notebook. Write them in your notebook or your notes. This is why we did notes yesterday. So you do projects, you do a new project, right? But if you want a copy of the commands and you want to know where they all are and you don't have the notes, you can go ahead and create this. We're not going to do this, by the way. Don't do this. I'm just showing you where you can find the notes. So if you click on create project for a private project, okay, fine. Anything for right now. All right. And the notes are, so here's an empty project, right? You remember this from yesterday, maybe. There's a reminder about the commands to type, which, by the way, GitHub doesn't give you. And here are the commands to clone a repo. We're not going to do that. We're actually going to do this. We've already done touch. We already have a file. And then we're going to do these 3 commands to add everything. But we're going to do our variation on these commands. Okay, so here is what we're going to do to push an existing folder. This is what we're going to do because we already made a folder for everything in the right spot. And when we do this, it will automatically add a new Git repo. Okay, so this is where you go to look for this if you want to do it. If you want to take a moment. Actually, I can send you these commands, and we're going to write them out right now. I don't want you to have my commands, so I want you to write your own commands. So please get ready for that. Okay, so and I want to configure for GitLab. All right, so we talked all about that yesterday. So you should not need that right now. Okay, so CD. It kind of is, yep. So we're going to go into the repos, and now we're going to go into our GitLab account, a GitLab directory, and then I'm going to go into the 8-ball program. Now, here's how you know. Let me give you a little secret here. Here's how you know it's not a Git repo already. ls.git. Okay, if you can configure multiple accounts on the same GitLab from the directory. All of them will work though. Your information can be saved. You can have a git config in each directory if you want, but that's outside of the scope of what we're going to do here. So if you see that there is no, you can see there's files here, right? -A, by the way, there's a new option on the ls. ls-a shows you everything, including anything that might be hidden. Okay, so that's everything. It shows you all the files. Now, here's the thing with the files. So you see there's no .git directory in here. If you want to tell whether a folder is already a Git repo, that's all a Git repo is. A Git repo is just a directory or a folder, whatever you want to call it. That's what they are. And so what are we doing? We're going to turn this directory into a Git repo. And to do that, we have to initialize it, and then we have to add the stuff, and then we have to commit it all, and then we have to push it up. That's the steps. Okay, so and if you want to do this stuff from the Git, you can, but we're going to do we're going to create a new repo entirely from the command line because we already have a directory all set up. Here we are, and we're going to do this. All right, so here we go. So the first step is git init. All right, and when you do git init, that actually adds the .git directory. Okay, again, I'm going to go back to the resources here, git init. Okay. The next step is, this is a little bit confusing, okay? And it's kind of hard to remember this particular line because it does change on every system, okay? So I'm going to do git, I'm just going to type so I don't get it wrong. I don't want to confuse you. Git remote add origin. Okay, now this is a big long command that says, all right, I've got this localized Git repo. Now I want to point it to someplace else. All right, in terms of being able to synchronize it. And so then we're going to type the address. Now, this is something you almost always have to look up, but you can just type this, git. You should probably memorize it. So write it down, git@gitlab.com, colon, people miss that all the time. They put a slash instead. And I want to put this in the rwxrob group, okay? And I want to call it 8-ball. Same thing as my directory name. Now, you're supposed to put .git at the end, but nobody's ever cared about that, so you don't have to do that, okay? So you can go ahead and put that. So here it is again, git remote add origin, git@gitlab.com, colon, rwxrob / 8-ball. That is the name and path of where it's going to go. If it were doing GitHub, it would be GitHub instead of GitLab. So then we do enter. Not quite yet. Not git status. Yes, you can do git status. There's actually much better ways to check whether it's already a directory, but we're not going to talk about that. That's just like locally, you want to know there's a git directory in there. And actually, I have a command for that. I can show you guys that checks even if you're in a subdirectory. All right. So now we've said, okay, I initialized this Git repo, so now it's a Git repo. Awesome. And then I'm telling Git that, hey, this actually belongs to someplace else that's going to be the main master. That's going to be the main place to put it. The main source, the origin for it. That's where I want to go if I want to get a copy from now on, even though this is the only one that exists right now. And then we have to add all the files to it. So that's like git add dot, and dot means this directory right here. Some people use $A. Just use add dot. That will add the whole directory. But I don't even think git status will tell you whether it involves everything. And it says, hey, I got a new file there. Okay. So at this point, you can do a git status just to see what's going on. It says it's got some stuff to add, but it hasn't committed it yet. Now, this is where people start to break down. They're like, well, what's this commit stuff? A commit is a way to kind of put a checkpoint in what is being saved. Okay. It doesn't synchronize anything yet. All it does is put a checkpoint and a comment about everything you did since the last time you made a change. So this is the part of the version management we're talking about. So we're going to do git save, git commit -m. Yeah, it's like a confirmation. I suggest strongly that you always put -m. Because if you don't, it's going to throw you into the editor, which is probably going to be VI or Nano, and it's going to force you to put a commit message. So just always remember to do commit -m. And so you do commit -m, and then I'm going to do quotes for safety, and I'm going to say initial commit. Okay? And then I push enter, and that does some stuff, and it tells you the commit. If you want to see how your status has changed, you can do git status, and you see now, wow, okay, everything's been committed. Hunky-dory, we're great. Hunky-dory, I actually said that. But the problem we have now is you're not done. Yeah, like right now you've got your stuff committed, and as far as your local Git repo is concerned, everything is caught up. But the one up on GitLab has not been updated yet. Okay, and that's bad, right? You want the one on Git. In fact, the one on GitLab doesn't even exist yet. And so this command that we're going to do next is where the real power of GitLab comes home, and it's also the most important. So git push -u origin master. Now, what that says is we're going to push up to origin. We're going to update the origin, which is the one we already told it about up on GitLab. And we want to specifically update the master branch. And we're not going to get into the weeds. We're already in the weeds a lot with this git command. This is where I lose people a lot because git can be very complicated. And I'm going to, right after this, with the last 10 minutes, we're going to put all these commands into a script. And then you can just run the script and you won't have to do it again. But so let's do git push origin master. And now it says, let's see, could not be created. Oh, I think I have a problem here. I might have to modify that command a little bit. I'm sorry. Give me a second. -u origin master git commit and origin git init. Okay, that's all good to go. So here's the script that we're going to use. That should have worked. So why didn't it? Did I type the name wrong? What did I do wrong? Gitlab rob GitLab 8ball. You got the same error. It should be fine. I'm trying. I've got a problem here. I can't see it right now. Oh, .git, I think. Origin already exists. Did I do it wrong? Oh, yeah, you're right. Let's try that. Let's do my actual account. That one I know exists. So let's do that. Oh, wait. Now I have to do... You know what? Okay, so I'm going to do something that you should never do. I'm going to remove the Git repo and start over. Git remote set if you already have it set. I think I might have screwed up the origin. What do you guys think? I'm not going to do that on the stream because people will do it, but you can do that if you need to. Is it set git remote set URL? No, we don't need to clone it. That's what I was trying to show you, but this has been... There's been actually a bug in GitLab over the last week that's prevented this from happening, which I'm afraid we're hitting right now. I hope we don't. So check the username rwxrob. It should be fine. So let me see. Git. I mean, it should work. Let's try. I think you tripped rwxrob instead of. Yeah. I think that git was the problem. I think it might have been. I think because I think I don't know. I want to try right now. So git config -a. This is why I have a script for this. So wait, that's this list. So GitLab instead of GitHub, remote origin 8ball.git. All right, so I think we should be fine. Did it work for you? Thank God. So I learned something today. The thing I learned is that you need .git on the end. All right, I have been getting rid of the .git on the end for a very long time, and it sounds like you need to have that on there. So then the last command is git push -u origin master, and there it goes. Yay, this is what I wanted. Wow, I just learned something, people. I just seriously learned something. You cannot omit the .git at the end. Okay, so there you go. That worked after a little panic there for a second. Data disciple, it stands for update. So this is good because we're going to talk about how to fix if you make a mistake. So I made a mistake. The mistake I made was that I put rwx/8ball instead of 8ball.git. So this is the command. Thank you, Og, for showing us. This is the command to save yourself if you entered this big long thing incorrectly. And then you can change your origin to git remote set URL origin. I know that's hairy. Please make sure you write these down. I have them in a script, which is why they're not at the tip of my tongue, which is probably why I need to start doing them all the time. So then you do git at gitlab.com, 8ball.git. And when you do that, The next command after that is update, and that means if necessary, update the origin to the master, and the master is the master branch. This is the step of Git that I lose people on. When you do that, however, I hope you saw that if it works, should work now. Okay, I'm sorry for tripping up there, but it's good because you got to learn how to fix if you get your origin wrong, thanks to Og and our community there. So yeah, newbies are not confused now. Great. All right, so set remote origin. Now the next thing just to prove that it actually exists, we're going to go up here and we're going to go to rwxrob / which is my group and not my user account, which is what people were suggesting with the underscore. But if I go to rwxrob, I can now type 8-ball, and you should see the 8-ball. Okay, so there's my 8-ball program, and it's saved. And then the only thing that we need to do next is to actually change it. And so, all right, if you got that to work, now let's actually make a change. Okay, so the last thing you want to do is make a change. So we're going to make a change to the 8-ball, and from here we're going to do some stuff. We're going to say echo to do just something silly, right? So I'm changing my file very quickly using VI. I added a line there, and I told you all that you know the commands, you can practice those. And now we made a change. Well, how do we know we've made a change, and how do we check whether our change has been saved? So we do git status, and it shows that we have a modified file in red. Ooh, we better fix that. It tells us what to do and everything. And we're going to go ahead and change that. So now we need to git commit. And because it's a file that's been modified, we don't have to add it again. If we had added a new file, let's do that. So touch some new file. If we do a git status now, you'll see that there's another file here, and it tells us what to do. So I need to do git add dot, and that'll add all the new files. Git status will now show that I have 2 files, a new one and another one, but it's ready to be committed. How do I do that? So git commit -m. It's like a new file sample, and then I enter that, and now it's been committed, and now a git status will show that it's been saved, and now it's ready to be pushed. And this is where people miss the step, and this is why I put it into a script, because all of this is it might be good for you to not have it in a script right now so you can get used to what it's doing. In fact, as you can see, I'm out of practice because I've been using my script so much, so I may not. In fact, I've just decided I'm not going to teach you the script today. I'm going to teach you just how to figure out how to save things to Git and practice doing this. So the last step is the git push. So git push, and you shouldn't need the extra -u anymore. You should just be able to do git push by itself, and that will push up the changes, and you should see, if you refresh, you should see the changes up on GitLab. There you go. Okay. Yeah. So there you go. There are lots and lots of ways to remove the complexity of Git from you and to hide it from you. But as you've just seen me, I slightly failed there by using a command that I was not familiar with and having to look it up because I haven't been using it for very much. So I'm not against you using tools that hide these commands from you, because I clearly do it myself, but please make sure you understand what the commands are doing before you make that change. Spend time learning this stuff before adding the shortcuts. Learn how it's actually done, then learn the shortcuts. And can I just say, as I close out this stream today, the commands are in GitHub or GitLab, but they should be in your notes, right? You should have written them all down, or you can rewrite the video data and make your own notes out of this. But as we close out today, I want to make a really big point here. Today, it's always better to learn how to do it the long way first, and then add the shortcuts and the scripts and everything later. And when you see me hack on Capture the Flag or games or Pico or whatever, I hack to learn, which means I spend an extraordinarily large amount of time figuring out what is going on before I use burp, before I use the scripts, before I use those things, because the knowledge about what's going on underneath, in most cases, is very valuable learning, and you're kind of throwing it away by using a script. Do I need to understand what LS is doing under the hood? No. I just need to know how it works, right? So as you go through your learning process as an autodidact, don't go for the easy fix first. Don't grab the script first. Oh, there's a script that does that. Oh, there's a plugin that does that. Oh, there's a thing that does that. Don't do that first. First, learn it. Like, truly learn it. Like, practice going through it and all that stuff. And doing it the hard way for a while, at least until you master it. And then you can add on the layers above that. Yeah, don't be a script kiddie. And so, if you do that, you'll be a better technologist overall. But even the best of technologists are going to fail because they're going to create these things and they're going to have to go back and use the actual things like I just did. And I won't lie, I have to look up all those Git commands every time because they annoy me. I hate entering those things all the time. I'm okay not remembering them because why? Because I can go open my script. I can go open my script anytime I want and look up what the commands are. So I know that I can go look at them up, and I kind of lean on that. So I'm not going to do the save script today. We're going to skip that. And in fact, I'm going to let you learn how to put your own script together maybe someday to do that. And tomorrow we'll be setting up more Vim configuration and configuring our environment further. And we'll be introducing tmux tomorrow, which is what I use to split the screens up. And so that'll be on the docket tomorrow. Let me just run through the review what we did today in our if I can get there. Let's see what I can do here. So tmux, go back to tmux. So let's go back to today's date and links. Actually, tomorrow is tmux and links day. So you see me using links all the time. And we're going to talk about that, and we're going to start in starting to configure our environment. So links, HTTPX, and then we're going to do the week 1. So here we go. Here's day 2. So we grokked the terminal. We got a proper Linux terminal running. We mastered cut and paste from the terminal. We peeked at the Linux command line. By the way, all of the concepts that I talked about today are explained at length in the Linux command line book. I suggest if you don't have it right now, it's free. Go get the PDF and spend some time today reading it, finding the things that we covered. Git is not covered in there, but all the other stuff, VI, LS, C, even all of that's in there. We learned the Vim basics. We talked about learning the Vim resources and why you should do the Vim Tutor. Spend the entire day practicing Vim Tutor. In fact, I challenge you guys to finish the entire Vim Tutor before tomorrow. Do the whole thing. It's not going to take you that long, okay, if you can do that. Next, grok's the basics of public key cryptography. That's the whole Clubhouse thing, the private key ring to rule them all. We set up our keys. We created our keys with SSH keygen, which everybody has to look up every time they do it. Don't feel bad if you have to look that up. Just know it exists. Half of the battle here is knowing what exists, so you can go look it up. Some people can't even do it because they don't know how to look it up. Configure Gitlab for the command line. We did that. We didn't do any GitHub. Let me give you a challenge. Add your key that you just did to GitHub. Maybe try to make a repo on GitHub just like we did with Gitlab. How is it different? Right? So there's an opportunity for you to try something completely new on your own. See if you can get GitHub configured like you just did Gitlab. In the process, you're going to get frustrated because GitHub is not nearly as helpful. So you can maybe try that if you want to do that. I'm not going to do it here. You can grok. I have here, it's like grokking basic Git source code management, which we just did. Git, at the end of the day, is just a source code management tool, which all you care about right now is it as a backup with versions that multiple people can share. That's really all you need to know about it. It's much, much more than that. I don't mean to downplay how powerful it is, but that's all you need to know about it right now. And then, so you're cloning an existing GitLab project repo. We did that. Well, we didn't do that actually. There's actually one command we didn't cover, and that's git clone. And while we're at it, why don't we do that? So let's go back to our Git repo. I know I'm over, but I'm going to do it anyway. So we're going to go back in here into our GitLab directory, and I'm going to do git clone, and I'm going to go find the repo that we did yesterday. and I'm going to go here. I'm glad we reviewed because I would have missed this. And I'm going to go to my configuration files. You remember we made one called notes, I think, right? Didn't we make one called notes? I think we did. rwxrob/notes. And actually, I don't have a notes. So let me just give you the command so you can know how to do it. I forgot to cover this. Did I call it www? Yeah, okay, whatever yours is named. I'm not going to, I don't have one. So this is what you do though. Same as the other command. So git clone. Make sure, by the way, make sure you're not inside of your other Git repo or it gets really messy. Okay, so make sure you're in the right place. You're in your Gitlab directory, not the 8-ball directory. So I went cds ... to get up, and now we're going to do this. Git clone, git at, and you can just learn this, or you can go get it from your project. Gitlab.com, your username, you already know that, and then / www.git. Okay, so give that a try. And when you do that, that will pull down the www directory, and then you can cd into that, change it, do your git commit, and it will show up. Okay, and you can go ahead and do that. You can steal other people's projects and stuff and play with that. I'm not going to talk more about that, but you're welcome to try that. In fact, I'm not going to cover git clone at all any further than this. That's all I'm going to cover. So yeah, and then what else we got? So here we go. We have we did not get to writing a save bash shell script, which I'm going to remove from this day. I don't think that's a good idea. I think you should practice using the, and it will show up. We went cds ... notes. So let me just give you the command so you can know how to do it. I forgot to cover this. Did I call it www? Yeah, okay, whatever yours is named. I'm not going to, I don't have one. So this is what you do though. Same as the other command. So git clone. Make sure, by the way, make sure you're not inside of your other Git repo or it gets really messy. Okay, so make sure you're in the right place. You're in your Gitlab directory, not the 8-ball directory. So I went cds ... to get up, and now we're going to do this. Git clone, git at, and you can just learn this, or you can go get it from your project. Gitlab.com, your username, you already know that, and then / www.git. Okay, so give that a try. And when you do that, that will pull down the www directory, and then you can cd into that, change it, do your git commit, and it will show up. Okay, and you can go ahead and do that. You can steal other people's projects and stuff and play with that. I'm not going to talk more about that, but you're welcome to try that. In fact, I'm not going to cover git clone at all any further than this. That's all I'm going to cover. So yeah, and then what else we got? So here we go. We have we did not get to writing a save bash shell script, which I'm going to remove from this day. I don't think that's a good idea. I think you should practice using the git commands for at least a week before you start shell scripting, things like that. And I promise you, as soon as you learn how to make shell scripts, you'll probably make one of your own that does that, and I don't need to show you how to do that. If you want a challenge, though, you can go ahead and write yourself a shell script today and do that. But tomorrow we're going to cover configuration. We're going to cover paths. We're going to cover where to make a local bin directory to put all your fancy scripts in so they don't get lost. And we're going to try to do links and tmux all tomorrow. So there's a lot on tap tomorrow. All right. That's all I have for today. I'm going to go ahead and end. You'll see me online again tonight. Hopefully not just like streaming randomly. But lots of stuff to cover there.